All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to MCD live session today. And today I will be hosting your session, and I will be discussing some very important things about how we can own our choices and how we can do that and why we should do that. Because a lot of us, when we get deeper in the discussion, we will realize that a lot of times we do have difficulty saying no. It's very difficult for a lot of us to say no in certain situations, especially for people, who do have the tendency to, to just make everyone happy and they just want everyone to be happy around them. I won't use the word people pleasing because a lot of people who believe that, who genuinely want others to be happy, they feel like saying no could be a wrong move or something selfish, right? So we will be discussing about how we can make deliberate, better choices and we can act bravely, right? So before we begin, I want you to start with a very simple, very basic exercise with me. And you just have to sit comfortably and place your feet on the ground and your hands on the table or on the legs or the thighs, wherever you feel it comfortable. But just leave your hands loose. Don't hold anything in your hands. If you have your phone, if you have your pen, anything at all, just put it aside and try to move your shoulders down. Try to relax your shoulders. And as you do that, I want you to close your eyes. Gently close your eyes and think about a decision you have made recently where you had an opportunity to say yes or no. A part of you wanted to say no, but you ended up saying yes. You were not agreeing to it, but you did so out of some internal pressure, something that was making you do it, something that was pushing you. Could have been at work, it could have been in a relationship with your family, with your children, with your partner, or just like, taking a responsibility you didn't want to take. It could be absolutely anything at all. You can you can think about any responsibility that you did not want to take, but you ended up taking it. Think about that situation. Of course, it makes you feel uncomfortable and regret about why you did that. So ask yourself, why did you say yes? What made you say yes? Was it because you genuinely wanted to do that? Or because you felt like you are responsible for something like that? Or were you thinking about someone who is depending on you? Or in the past, you were made to feel like you had to agree to everything that was being said to you so you don't disappoint anyone. Did you want to look capable, or you didn't want anyone around you to think that you are weak? What was it? Did anybody make you feel like you are an unreliable person, or you are unable to handle things on your own? Whatever pressure was behind you not being able to say no. But you didn't want to say yes. You wanted to say no, but there was something that was holding you back. It could be any of these things that I shared with you, or it could be anything apart from these things. Keep your eyes closed and imagine that situation again. Go back to that situation and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it in for 3 seconds and exhale from your mouth. Take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale from your mouth. Breathe in from your nose and breathe out from your mouth. Keep your eyes closed and just ask yourself one question before we move forward. While your eyes are closed, while you are in that situation, you are thinking about it and you are there. Why did I say that? What do I actually value here? My well-being, my comfort, or something that will make me look good? Something that would make everyone happy? Something a strong man is expected to do? Is that all that drove your decision to say yes and not no? But should you not be thinking about what you value there, what you want there, rather than worrying about what image has been built about you, of you, and you have to comply with even the unreasonable things that people expect of you, just to conform to that image that has been built of you. What do you value? Well, should that not be your first question? What do I value here? Take a few seconds to think about that. If you were made to go in a place, in a location you didn't initially want to go, you were afraid of going there, you do believe there are security risks attached to there, but a friend compelled you to go there, and they said you never listened to us. And you agreed because you didn't want to be the odd one out of all your friends. There are situations like that. But you didn't have the value where you didn't believe that you should go there. And you went there because of some external or internal pressure. And that internal pressure is also building up because the people around you, they have built some beliefs in your heart with the way they treat you, with the way they expect of you. So your primary question before making any decision should always be, what do I actually value here? Because at the end of the day, eventually our decisions do have consequences which only we have to bear. Nobody else comes to bear them for us. And you may feel like in this situation you are making your choices freely when you are not being mindful and you are in that situation. But sometimes a decision has already been shaped by the set of rules that you have learned years ago or months ago. The rules about what a man should be or a woman should be, what he should provide, what he should tolerate, how much they should achieve, what they should never admit. All these things are what are driving your decisions. We are going to understand these core ideas. And now you may take a deep breath again. Hold it in for a second and breathe out from your mouth. And try to relax yourself before you can open your eyes again. All right. All right. So, we did go into that situation, and for a lot of us, it's very difficult and hard to create a distinction between what we are doing deliberately and what we are doing out of pressure or for what we have learned, right? You make hundreds of decisions every day. What you do, what you let go, everything you do that every single day. Even what you have to say every day, even that is a decision that you make every single day. And even whether you want to take help from someone or you shouldn't take help from someone in a crisis situation, even that is something you spend hours contemplating. And we like to believe that these decisions, although we do like to believe they are conscious choices, conscious decisions, but many of them are actually influenced by a belief that, like kind of a belief filter, which operates, in our background, in our unconscious. So a lot of our conscious, you know, uh, uh, many of our choices that we believe we have taken from our conscious self, they are being driven from the background, from the unconscious, right? Now, this is the filter from which our decisions are actually passing, and it is actually made up of a set of assumptions, a set of rules that our mind has formed over and over the years when we are growing up, we are becoming adults, and these, date back to even our child. And for men, you can say that one of the strongest messages is something like, perform. You should be providing. As a man, you are a provider. And so every decision, if because men are called the providers for a lot of, in societies and cultures, so they are, expected to have every decision making in their life being done around the idea that they are providers, that they should be successful in every way. They shouldn't be showing weakness. Even yesterday, we were talking about expression of emotions and suppression of emotions and regulation of emotions. And one of the core ideas that we bring from there is that men shouldn't show their emotions. They should not cry, and all of these things. And these form the rules and the assumptions we have. Because it's not because, even yesterday we talked about this, men or women, they are not wired actually like this. We are not wired to be competitive or emotional or emotionally detached. There is no research that supports the idea that such beliefs are biological. Like, women are told to be modest, or men are told to be, all these things are coming from where? They are strongly influenced from the cultures that we live in. It's something we can call the cultural conditioning, which can actually, shape how we learn to make these decisions. Like messages about, the assumptions about strength, self-reliance, performance, emotional control. Why do they feel so familiar? Because everyone around us, the men around us, they would behave in a certain pattern. And the one who deviates from such a pattern may be seen like the odd one out or problematic, right? And similarly, it goes for women as well. A woman who does not conform to the set rules and perceptions about how they should behave, they will be seen as the odd one out. So, where are these things coming from? From our society, from our cultural conditioning. And our decisions are all based on these things. And these are not biological. Again, these are learned. Now, if there is a situation at work, let's imagine that your manager, he asks you to, excuse me, he asks you to take on another major responsibility. And before you even spend some time thinking about it, whether you have the emotional or physical capacity to take over that task, something goes on in your mind at that. Is this decision going to affect the way my boss views me, my manager views me? Will I look capable to them if I decline? Will I seem like a weak person if I can't do it? Then you make a decision based on these questions. So, what is this? What is this decision called in the terms of psychology? We call it performance performance simulation. You are making your decisions on the basis of how you will be viewed rather than what you value. And these questions are like the filters that we were talking about. And of course, it's not bad. I'm not saying that it is entirely black and white, that you don't think about these things. But it is important you do think about these things, but you do not skip the step of value checking. In the beginning, when we were doing the mindfulness, I asked you the question in the beginning about, um, we felt those situations in different domains. In the beginning, we talked about what we did, and then later on, we talked about the question that should be asked instead of other questions. We should be asking, what do I actually value? What do I actually value? What are my values? So you simply respond. You tell what you want. You may make a choice based on what you actually can do. You will not feel exhausted later on. You will not feel resentful or disconnected from your own self. And this is something that will erase the performance out of you. And that is not going to eliminate your ambition, of course. You will make a decision because performance requires energy from you, it has a cost. Even while we were discussing emotions yesterday, pretense always has its cost. And one of the costs is the overuse of the limited energy that you may have. And that does impact the way you function for the rest of your day, for the rest of your in the rest of your tasks. Now, there is another concept known as the normative alexithymia. This is particularly for men because we have discussed a lot about the women's module. So I was wanting to cover this from the men's module as well. So this is known as the normative male alexithymia. Now, it's not a medical diagnosis, of course. That's not what we will be discussing. It's a culturally conditioned pattern in which actually, many men, they learn to reduce or, suppress of their own emotional stress. We were talking about this yesterday about how suppression is actually detrimental to your overall body. There is physiological stress that, is induced because of what goes on when you suppress your stress. It it is a term, it is a cultural term which we can use in terms of how men, suppress their emotions or awareness, not just suppress their emotions, they suppress the awareness of their emotional states. They don't even want to identify or recognize that there is something wrong going on. And they do that. This is known as the normative male alexithymia. Alexithymia, yes. So, this is very important when it comes to decision making because our emotions carry a lot of information. If you um, if you have actually learned not to notice what you are feeling, if you have learned not to, this is an automatic process. When you have grown up believing something, this becomes an automatic process, right? So if you have learned not to notice what you are feeling, then that belief filter, it will keep on operating even if you are not realizing it, right? And at one point, your decisions may feel like they are completely rational. And you may actually tell yourself that this is simply what I have to do. I just have to do. And this entire process is bad because a lot of people don't realize it's happening. It's not a conscious or brave decision making. Underneath this decision that you are making, because of the automatic process, there's going to be a belief that is saying, if I don't handle this myself, people will think I'm incapable. Back to that. If I don't handle this on my own self, people will believe I'm incapable, right? So this is something that we have to identify, right? And we have to identify these filters that actually, affect the way we make our decisions. So value aligned decisions. What are value aligned decisions? There is a research from acceptance and commitment therapy, which includes the work of Hayes and Phillips, which has consistently emphasized the idea of psychological flexibility, the ability that you have to act according to your own values, even when there are difficult thoughts and feelings that are present. There is a time and moment where you might feel like you cannot make a decision. And your values may be, suppressed somewhere back. But it is your ability to have psychological flexibility where even in situations like these, you take a decision that is difficult. And it's tough to take, but it's brave to take that decision. Because you do have feelings and thoughts that are definitely difficult, but you are still acting according to your values. This is the idea of psychological flexibility. And that helps you take a value aligned decision. And it is not necessarily a comfortable decision. A comfortable decision helps you earn the comfort of being approved, of being accepted in society. A decision that actually reflects your value is always supposed to be difficult. It means you're saying no. It also means you're asking for help. It also means admitting you don't know something. Even in our sessions, we do have questions that, sometimes we may not have an answer to. And we confidently share that maybe we are not aware of this particular term or, a particular concept. So we may read more about it and share with you the insights. So it also means admitting you don't know something. It's bravery. Um, it's a way of knowing and telling people that your decision, your insight is all based on your values rather than performance. It means you are having difficult conversations. And something that does feel uncomfortable at times, it will feel uncomfortable. It doesn't necessarily have to be the wrong decision. Sometimes there is discomfort in your decisions because it is the right decision, right? So, we have lots of filters. Of course, you will be discussing that later on. But today, as we are nearing the time towards concluding the session, so we have to talk about having boundaries and limits at the end. Because a lot of us have the concept that setting a limit is something that it's treated like you are a difficult person, or you are a tough person. You cannot be someone who can be approached. Setting limits, instead of setting limitations in your own heart, in your own internal state, based on what people want, how about we set limits with what people can try to put in our minds when it comes to our own personal decision making? Setting limits and boundary is a form of self-management. You should be putting a value-based limit when it comes to decision making, when it comes to especially the choices you make about your own life. Like you can say, I don't take calls You know, I can say I don't take calls after 9 p.m., especially on weekends, or or if you can say on weekdays. These are my time limits, and I don't take calls after that. The rest of the time is committed elsewhere. This is a boundary. That's clear, right? That's of course not an attack on someone. It's not a threat against someone. It's not you being emotional. It's not being anything but emotionally sound by taking a decision based on your values, right? So you need to make a decision by being clear about your values, by being open about your values, because the performance is not just detrimental to your own self in the short term, but also in the long term. People will start expecting you to remain that way. It's going to help make you end up in burnout. You won't be able to take it one day. A human can perform only for a while. So it's very important that we actually identify these patterns and make decisions that are wise. So let's, before we wrap up the session, before we wrap up the session, let's think about practice that you can do after this session. You can have your partner around you, or your colleague, or a friend, and you can say that you, I've been looking at what I actually value versus how I actually live. Am I living my life like I'm, you can say that I'm thinking about the things that I value, things I like, things I am strongly inclined towards, versus the way I'm actually living my life. Ask them, would you be willing to stay with me alongside, even with that thought that if I start living according to my values? And then you ask them to list down their values, and you list down, any 4 to 5 of your values, top 5 values that you may both have. Take it as an activity together, and then compare those values that you have and they have, compare them, and check where are those values aligning, and also check the difference between your values, the difference that you may have. Then ask each other that how looking at how I actually make decisions day to day, do you think that my decisions reflect these values? Do you think so? So what is that something that you notice about me that I'm not able to see? This is an activity that you can do, and it can help you have an important insight about what you are doing. Something a lot of us unconsciously do. A lot of people around us who we are close to, or people who love us, they do identify these things. So we need to recognize these 5 values. um, before tomorrow's session, I want you to go through these values, do this activity with your friend, colleague, or partner, whoever, and try to reflect on this. So it's better for you to make choices in the future that you can own, that you make bravely rather than as a compulsion. So that is it. Now, does anybody the 5 values that you may have, uh, they are individual values that I'm talking about the activity in a way that your value could be to be responsible, to be kind, to be compassionate, to take care of the to be careful towards pets. It could be one value, to be respectful with your communication. Then you ask whether these align with the way you are acting or not, with your decisions or not. Not just the acting, but the way you are making decisions. Are your decisions supporting your values or not? So you need to work on these. No worries, I'll also share the activity, kind of a resource thing. It's going to help in case you forget how to do this. But make sure you do this. It's going to be very helpful in identifying where you are going right or wrong with your decisions. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. If anybody has any questions, please you can type it in the comments or the chat box and I can answer it, or else we can call it a day. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye. Have a great day ahead.